Welcome to the Return and Rebuild LA Strong webinar. My name is Matt Talley, Senior Vice President at AECOM, and I'll be your moderator this evening. We're grateful that you've all joined us for this important conversation about how we can rebuild together stronger, safer, and faster. Before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. Tonight's webinar is being recorded, and the copy will be shared afterwards. We'll also have a Q&A session at the end, so please use the Zoom Q&A function to submit your questions at any time. If we don't get to your question, we'll follow up with written responses that will be emailed out and posted online. Our program this evening will run about 90 minutes, with 70 minutes of presentation, followed by 20 minutes of Q&A. Now, I want to take a minute to frame why we're here. This webinar is designed to put ourselves in your shoes as disaster survivors and builders navigating the challenge of rebuilding after the wildfires. Tonight is about giving you the basics: how to submit a permit, how to avoid common corrections, and what to expect in terms of timing with clearances and approvals. Our goal is to simplify a complicated process to give you the tools and confidence to move forward with your rebuild. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the Mayor's Office, Council District 11, and all of the city departments that are with us tonight. Your leadership and partnership are crucial in helping our communities recover. To open tonight's program, it's my honor to introduce Mayor Karen Bass, whose leadership and commitment to helping Los Angeles recover has been central to moving this rebuilding effort forward. Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you, Matt, and thank you for your work. We're very glad to have you on the team as well as AECOM. I know it's been a long time since I have been on one of these, and I think it's been quite a while since we've had a webinar. And we want to address several things, but as always, you never know what to expect. So first, I do want everyone to know that there is a flood watch that has been issued, a flood watch, just what we need right now, that has been issued for the Palisades, going into effect at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning through 2 a.m. Friday morning. Please know that my office and the city departments are closely monitoring the forecast, and we're prepared to respond to any potential debris flows in the burn scar areas. So more than 13,000 feet of K-rails remain in place along the Palisades from wet weather that we had earlier this year, as well as the catch basin sandbags and filters. I do want to remind you that you can pick up sandbags at all LAFD fire stations and sand at fire stations 23 and 19 if needed. I want to acknowledge that, it's just incredible that we reached a major milestone this month. I know everyone knows, but let's repeat the good news. The completion of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Private Property Debris Removal Program. This was completed nearly a year ahead of original expectations. Overall, the debris removal is 99% complete. Every single week, just so you know what the latest numbers are. And I say this also because, one of the things that is that has been challenging, disconcerting over the last month is the deliberate misinformation that gets out there. There's no permits, nothing is happening, nothing is being rebuilt. Well, more and more Palisadians, and I know you know this, are starting the rebuilding process. And so to date, we have over 1,400 applications that have been submitted. More than 690 plans have been approved, and at least 220 homes are confirmed to have started construction. Unfortunately, part of the misinformation, is from 3,000 miles away. We can't do anything about the bully pulpit of the President of the United States, but it is important because I certainly don't want Palisadians to lose hope. So that's 1,400 applications, over 1,400 applications, 690 plans have been approved, and at least 220 homes are confirmed to have started construction. Now, having said this, I know periodically I run into people that are having problems with the process. One of the things we've thought about doing is maybe setting up kind of an ombudsman. But let me just say that if you are having problems at any step of the way in the process, please directly let us know. Reach out to us and tell us what the specific problem is. I know I was talking to, one of many Palisadian great champions um, uh, from Palisades Live, and it was mentioned, Larry Vane. It was mentioned that people are having problems with the hillsides and slope, and so we want to figure out how to address that problems. But please let us know when there are problems. We all know that our city has never faced anything like this before, so there are definitely going to be problems along the way. And as much as I say I want to eliminate all red tape, there's going to be challenges that happen. We need to know about them so we can address them. The other thing that you might have seen in the papers last week is I tried very hard to address the ULA issue. I don't want you to lose hope over that as well, because I do believe that we're going to get that done. I happen to personally feel very passionately about that anybody that lost their home or frankly was affected by the fires, because there's a number of people that didn't lose their home, but they have been severely impacted by the fires. You shouldn't have to pay that transfer tax. Just like I don't believe that you should have to pay a permit fee. And I did the executive order on permits. And of course, your incredible councilwoman is carrying it through, because it has to be the mayor and the council office working together in order to get it done. But we have frozen permit fees. So nobody should be paying that now while we work it through. I am 100% sure that as it works its way through, we will get it done. I don't have any concern that the council won't approve it. With the leader that you have in the city council, she will make sure, and I will be there supporting her all the way. So while it's important that we are excited about the progress that we've made so far, we know that there's still a long way to go. And one issue that I know impacts everybody that I wish I had a magic wand for, and that is the insurance issue. But we need to stay together and fight this as a group and take that advocacy to Sacramento, which I think it would be great for us to organize while they're on break, so we can go up there in full force in January when they're back in session. So I, am always open. My door is always open and accessible to hear any needs, concerns, problems that you might have. And I think now we're going to go to my partner, my colleague, and friend, your wonderful council representative, Tracy Park.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, and welcome everyone this evening. I really want to take a minute and express my deep gratitude to Mayor Bass. We would not be where we are in this recovery process if it weren't for her support. And I just want to publicly acknowledge all of her help keeping the Pacific Palisades safe, her support on implementing AI plan check and self-certification programs, which I think are not just going to be innovative for our recovery in the Pacific Palisades, but are going to model how we need to do things in the city of Los Angeles in 2025 and beyond. And I also really appreciate her support on the permit fee waivers. I've talked to a lot of you about this, and I've been trying to keep you updated on through my communications on this. We are waiting for a final report back from the city that will be scheduled in the Budget and Finance Committee before it comes to the full City Council for a vote. So I will continue to let you know as those dates land on the calendar, so that you continue to be engaged and have an opportunity, because I think it is going to be really important for my colleagues on the council to hear directly from you on what a really big deal that is. Also really want to thank the mayor for her support on ULA reform. I know that that has been a huge issue for many, many of you. And so I will continue to work very closely with her on that. So this webinar and tonight's presentation, the basics, how to get through the city of LA permitting for the rebuild process 101 is something that, I have wanted to do as an office for a long time now. In the wake of the fire on January 7th, with so many people losing homes, this is an education that none of us wanted, but it is one that we are all now acquiring together. And the vast, vast majority of homeowners did not build the home that they live in. And so this is a first time experience for so many people going through this process that we wanted to bring together our city departments, not only to answer questions, but to provide everyone, homeowners, their builders, and their architects, with the essential information that they need in order to get through our permitting system as efficiently and cost effectively as possible. If any of you run into challenges during the process, I would welcome you to reach out to me and my team. We can sometimes help diagnose if there is a clog in the system and what we need to do to resolve that particular challenge. So we're more than happy to serve as your advocates on that front as well. So I just want to thank, all of the departments and AECOM especially for their leadership in wrangling us all and getting us here tonight. But I know that you are here to hear from them and not me. But we'll be here to monitor the chat and to make sure that you're getting as many questions answered as you can. If there are any lingering questions after tonight's program, please feel free to bring those up to me in my office. And we continue to be here on standby to make sure that we are creating a viable pathway home for every one of you who lost your home in the Palisades. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bass and Councilwoman Park. You both are really powerful forces in this recovery journey, and your support is very, very much appreciated. Before we start the regular program, we'd like to turn it over to Jennifer from EMD for an emergency management update. Jennifer?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Lazo, and I'm your Emergency Management Department duty officer for this week. And I'm just here to let you know the actions that the city is taking to monitor the storm that is incoming and prepare the city for any possible debris flows. We've been working with the National Weather Service all week to very closely track any impacts at the Palisades from this storm. And we do know that thunderstorms are possible tomorrow. It's going to feel very muggy, and those thunderstorms are going to be erratic. It's expected that most of the Los Angeles area will receive up to about ½ an inch of rain, but there may be some limited locations where they get heavy downpours, and that's the main thing that we're keeping track of. That's what that flood watch is worried about, especially in the burn scar area. And the county has done assessments of all of the properties in the burn scar area to see who might be at risk of debris flow on their land. Those maps are available on the county's debris flow website. And we also have a storm website as well at emergency.lacity.gov that has information about how to protect your property from a debris flow. While we do not anticipate tomorrow's storm to have major damaging debris flows, you may see a little bit of mud in the street or some movement of earth due to the rain. The fire department has activated staff. They're going to have swift water teams on standby as well as bulldozers in case any roads have any impacts. Our street services team is ready to clean up trees. The Department of Water and Power is ready to restore power. We want to remind you that if you see a tree down, an issue with the street, a blocked storm drain, or any other kind of problem in your community, please contact 311. You can do that online or via phone call, and then you can track the progress of that incident to see that it gets cleaned up. That's the best and quickest way to get that information to our city department so that they can address it rapidly. Finally, please sign up for Notify LA alerts, especially not so much for this storm, but as we look forward, we may have storms that have the potential of being significantly more damaging. And we want to make sure that you know what's happening in the Palisades. You may have moved over the course of recent time, maybe somewhere else. Please make sure you're receiving alerts for that location where you live. You can also still receive alerts for your home, especially if you may have construction workers on site, to give them early notice of a storm that may impact the construction and rebuilding operation. Thank you so much for being observant this year, keeping an eye on the weather, and we will be continuing to keep you informed about the actions that the city is taking to keep you all safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Really appreciate that. We'll now move into our department presentations. First, we'll hear from Vince Bertoni, Director of Planning, who will provide opening remarks to frame tonight's discussion.
Thank you very much, and for the introduction. And I just really want to thank also Mayor Bass and Councilmember Park for their leadership. You know, for city planning, we're here tonight to really, and overall here, we're really here to break down the pathways for rebuilding single-family homes in the Palisades. Understand as part of the department, so many have gone through incredible loss, and we're here to do what we can do to smooth things and make it as smooth as possible. Little background, just personally for me, I come to this with the experience of working up the coast in the city of Malibu during the 1993 old Topanga fires, and having worked there for another 4 years of kind of drawing upon the memory of what it's like to really try to remove as many barriers as possible that are unnecessary so that people can get back into their homes as quickly as possible. And so the Palisades rebuild has been one of our department's highest priorities. Immediately after the fire, we established a team of planners dedicated exclusively to the Palisades rebuild. They're available in person, by phone, via email, or virtual meeting to consult with you and provide you guidance. We reopened our public counter located in our West LA Development Service Center on Sawtelle. Additionally, we have a webpage that outlines rebuilding options and additional important resources like an interactive map showing the coastal zone boundaries. A big part of our effort to date has been to clear away hurdles that are unnecessary and to limit city planning's involvement in the permitting process. To achieve this, we've worked very closely with the mayor's office and other local and state leaders, including the Councilmember Park's office, to lift those regulations that add time and cost to the rebuilding process for properties both within and outside of the coastal zone. Because a large part of the Palisades is within the coastal zone, city planning has traditionally played a large role in reviewing development. We know that over 2,500 single-family homes within the boundaries of the coastal zone were damaged or destroyed by the fire. Under normal circumstances, a new house in the coastal zone would require approval of either a coastal development permit, which involves a lengthy discretionary process, or a categorical exclusion in certain areas. Other requirements could include a Mellow Act review and environmental review, which can also be costly. Really, with the leadership of Governor Newsom's office and Mayor Bass, executive orders have been issued to suspend the Coastal Act and California Environmental Quality Act for rebuild projects. This means that for those single-family homeowners who wish to build back what was lost or explore other zoning compliant design options, you can achieve this through a streamlined administrative process, which is less time, less cost, and less risk. As part of this, my goal has always been to remove city planning from the review process where it's as much as possible when it's not necessary. So one of the things we started with is removing planning clearances, any kind of discretionary actions, and reviews for like rebuilds to expedite the process. And like rebuild is building what you had before with a little bit more, roughly up to 110% in basically the same location. And doing that with no public hearing, no discretionary review, no coastal development permit process. This means that all properties that are utilizing Executive Order 1 for their rebuild would not have any planning clearance. The only ones that would have any kind of planning review would be a new detached accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, on a bluff. That would require a planning review. That's only if the ADU was not there before. So no matter where you are, coastal or non-coastal, you do a like-for-like rebuild, there's no planning review whatsoever, except for that narrow situation of the ADU that did not exist before. Now, if you want to go beyond what was there before and you're outside of the coastal zone, there's also no planning review whatsoever, no clearances or planning review. Now, if you are within the coastal zone and you want to build a project that complies with the zoning standards, the height, the setback, structure size, etc., there's a streamlined review that we have because of executive orders with the governor and the mayor. But that's limited to what we call bluff and biological resources that would typically be part of the coastal process. What we did as part of that is we looked at the maps to see if we could exclude outright any area. So if you are in the coastal zone and you want to go beyond the like for like, we're able to eliminate around 30% of the properties to have no coastal review whatsoever. Now, those that do have to go through coastal review because they have bluff or biological resources would go through an administrative process. So not a discretionary process, but an administrative process, which really compresses the time that could have been, in some circumstances prior to this, could have gone up to, could have been 9 months or up to 2 years in some cases, to a matter as little as a few days to a matter of a couple of months. So that was something very important that we really reduce that down to just the essence for that. But we also understand that we want to provide as many options and flexibility for people who want to rebuild their homes without a long and cumbersome process. So for those that want to also rebuild beyond these executive orders, because on executive order 1 and 8, so you want to go beyond what the zoning allows, there will still be a process through the coastal development permit process. But if you have to go through that process, we're committing to expediting those reviews, but that would be most likely a very smaller number. What I would like to do now from that overview is really to get into some of the details and turn it over to our senior city planner, Shannon Ryan, to go into greater details on the various pathways. So thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, Vince, and good evening, everyone. My name's Shannon Ryan, and I'm a senior city planner here with LA City Planning. I will be reviewing the streamlined rebuilding options for single-family houses in the Palisades. Before I get into the details, I'd like to express how sorry I am that this disaster occurred and for all the heartache and tragedy that all of you are navigating. I have personal ties to the Palisades, having graduated from Corpus Christi School and getting married in the church there. I have a very personal connection to the loss and devastation. My family has been impacted by the fire, and I know how impossible this whole process seems and how overwhelming it is to figure out where to start. The planning department has been working diligently to cut as much red tape as possible to simplify your rebuild options. As Vince shared, and I think they're going to put up the PowerPoint, slide 6. We have 2 executive orders that the mayor has issued for rebuilding, Executive Order 1 and Executive Order 8. EO1 is referred to as the like-for-like option, and EO8 is the zoning compliant option. Those projects that are not eligible for either order will need to go through the typical approval process. So let's jump into it. This is slide 6. Are you seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Executive Order 1 allows for rebuilding what previously existed, but with some built-in flexibility. This like-for-like option allows for a 10% increase in the previous building's height and footprint. This allows non-conforming setbacks to remain. This means that even if height, floor area, or setbacks did not meet the current zoning code, but were that way before the fire, they can be built back again, plus a 10% increase in height and footprint. The location of the house or garage on the lot can also be shifted. It also allows for supportive infrastructure to be rebuilt, like retaining walls and driveways. This option also allows for a basement to be added, even if there was not one before, as well as an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU for short. This is all possible with no coastal review, no environmental review, no Mellow Act review, no planning review. The like-for-like option is a good fit for those who plan to build back mostly what existed before, especially if it wouldn't be allowed under today's zoning code. This is all outlined in the EO1 implementation guidelines, which were prepared with planning, building and safety, the housing department, and the Bureau of Engineering. City Planning also has a dedicated team to help answer questions about using this order. When applying for a building permit, the Department of Building and Safety will determine if the project qualifies for EO1. If so, the project can proceed without any city planning clearances. However, if you are building a detached ADU on a potential canyon or coastal bluff, there would be planning review, and I will get into that process momentarily. EO1 also removes hillside dedication and access requirements, makes haul route requests administrative, and suspends low-impact development standards. For those who had a smaller house before the fire and want to build something larger than what the like-for-like option would allow, EO8 could be a good path for you. EO8 allows for zoning-compliant single-family rebuilds in the coastal zone. Zoning-compliant house rebuilds outside of the coastal zone are already permitted by right and require no planning review. Under the zoning compliant option for the coastal zone, any damaged or destroyed house can be rebuilt to the maximum size permitted by the zoning code without coastal or environmental review when meeting the requirements of the order. This includes adding accessory dwelling units, basements, retaining walls, and pools. EO8 reduces what typically would have been an 18 to 24-month-long coastal review process to one that may only take a few days or a couple of months to review. As tedious as that typical coastal review process is, it includes a number of important checkpoints or guardrails to protect coastal resources. So what the executive order has done is been designed to preserve those guardrails, but apply them in a more efficient and time-saving way by standardizing them. This means that all projects utilizing EO8 must comply with certain setbacks from coastal and canyon bluffs and be found not to impact biological resources. These guardrails ensure that bluff landforms are not altered and that wildlife is protected. This review is important because unlike the like-for-like projects, the EO8 zoning compliant projects can build outside of the original footprint of the house and may be significantly larger. Similarly to the like-for-like option, there are EO8 implementation guidelines to help break down the process. City planning staff is also available to answer questions. When applying for a building permit, the Department of Building and Safety will determine if the project qualifies for EO8. The only planning clearances added would be for properties located on a coastal or canyon bluff potential area or a medium or high biological resource potential area. I know those are a lot of words, so let's discuss what that means. So bluff setbacks. So in the coastal zone, if the property that you own or are interested in redeveloping is on a potential coastal or canyon bluff area, there is a setback required, which is 25 feet for a coastal bluff and 10 feet for a canyon bluff. Essentially, we're checking for the potential for a bluff edge to exist on site or proximate to the lot. Under the requirements of EO1, the setback only applies to new detached accessory dwelling units. Under the requirements of EO8, the setback applies to the entire development. This means all structures such as the dwelling, accessory structures, walls, pools, retaining walls must observe that required setback. In order to determine if these requirements apply, building and safety plan checkers, planning, and the applicant can review the Zoning Information Map Access System, or ZEMIS. The website is listed on the screen. ZEMIS provides preliminary information to determine if further review is going to be required by planning. If it is determined that development will occur within the bluff, the project can still be pursued through the standard process, but will not be eligible for EO1 or EO8 streamlining. This review process is similar for biological resources under Executive Order 8. If ZEMIS indicates a property has a medium or high potential for biological resources, further review will be required by planning, and the preparation of a biologist statement or biological resources report will be required to determine if there are any impacts. In most cases, any impacts can be mitigated, but if not, the project can still be pursued through our typical standard process, but you will not be eligible for the EO8 streamlining. So these are some of the things to take into consideration as you're designing your rebuild. For those projects that don't fit into one of the like for like or the zoning compliant option buckets, these are non-eligible projects. And there are some things that will automatically exclude you from being able to use the executive orders. First, if you don't meet the requirements of the orders, it won't qualify. If there's any increase or decrease in the number of dwelling units, excluding ADUs, it won't qualify. Lot consolidation or lot subdivisions do not qualify for the executive order streamlining. And then any Senate Bill 9 lot split or 2-unit development are not permitted under the executive orders. Please keep in mind that Mayor Bass issued Executive Order 9, and that prohibits the use of Senate Bill 9 entirely in the burn area. That Senate Bill 9 typically could allow up to 4 units on a single family lot, and it's prohibited right now. So non-eligible projects, the path forward for those outside of the coastal zone is what it was before the fire. Go to building and safety, submit your plans, apply for your permit. There's no planning review needed. Non-eligible for the executive orders rebuild in the coastal zone, and you're exceeding more than the 110% for the zoning compliant project, you will need to apply for a discretionary review or a ministerial review with the planning department. There's 3 types of reviews that are possible. A categorical exclusion. This is for remodels and brand new single family dwellings. However, pools and accessory structures are not permitted. There's also a coastal exemption option. That's really for houses that have been damaged and are still existing, but would like to be remodeled. And then those are both ministerial actions. They do require review from the planning department and also a second level of review by the Coastal Commission, but they're typically pretty streamlined and can take just a month or 2. For projects that don't qualify as a categorical exclusion or a coastal exemption, then a full coastal development permit is required. A CDP, as it's often referred to, is a discretionary review, which means a public hearing is required, environmental review is conducted, and the project is subject to appeal at the city level and with the Coastal Commission. So I hope this has helped to break down the 3 paths forward. The planning department's here to answer any questions. Our contact information will appear at the end of this presentation, and we really want to be there for you and help you navigate this process. So that concludes my slides, and I'll pass it back over to Matt.
Thank you, Shannon and Vince, and thank you, Shannon, for sharing your story. Now let's turn it over to the permitting process. I'd like to welcome Osama Yunan, the General Manager for the Department of Building and Safety. Osama?
Yes, can you hear me, Matt?
Yes,
Okay.
you're good.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I will go over the permitting process, where we are, what we've done, and go through the permitting process. But first, I do want to start by saying my heartfelt sympathies to all those that have been tragically affected by the fire. And I do want to assure you that the department is here to help and guide you through the rebuilding process. And if you come across problems with the process, we continue to improve the process and find ways to make it shorter and faster and streamlined. But if you find anything that is not working, please let us know. The Palisades rebuild is our top priority. So with that, let's go to the next slide, please. So thanks to Mayor Bass and her leadership and her executive orders, we have been able to do a number of streamlining efforts to expedite the permitting process. And I will go through each one of these in details in later slides. The plan check and permit fees have been suspended. The plan check process review has been significantly reduced in time. Clearances have been streamlined and reduced in time. We also offered a number of tools to help expedite the process. We introduced artificial intelligence tool and started a self-certification program and a standard plan program. Again, I will go through each one of those. Next. So first, I want to talk about how plan submittal, how to get a permit. So the first step in getting a permit is to submit a completed plan. Once you have a completed plan, you can submit both ways. You could do it online or you could do it in person. We highly encourage you to do it online. It makes it available to all the departments at once immediately, and it's better for record keeping. But it's your choice. If you want to submit in person, by all means, the One-Stop Center on Sawtelle, it's open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. You could submit your paper plan right there and we'll take it in. Next. So when I say completed plans, this is what I mean. You need to have architectural plans, which is layout of the house. Where's the kitchen, where's the bedrooms, where's the windows, doors, etc. Then you need to have a structural plan and calculations. They show the rafters, the beams, the columns to make sure they're sized correctly. And third, we have energy calculations, this is a state requirement for energy conservation. Then finally, when you do grading, there needs to be a civil plans along with some grading reports, depending on what you're doing. So the use of past plans. Normally, when you submit the plans, you got to comply with the code at the time of submittal. Governor Newsom issued an order, which is N20-25, you see there. And according to the order, if your plans were approved under the 2019 California Building Code or later, you do not need to upgrade those plans. Those plans are good. You just bring them in. We'll stamp them and issue the permit based on that. There's nothing further to do. The only thing you got to make sure that the architect or engineer that stamped the drawings, they restamp them again. If you don't have copies of these plans, or even if if your house is older and you just want that plan from 20 years ago to make sure you have a good starting point, if we have them, and we should have plans that been there from late 70s on, we're happy to give them to you. And all you have to do, you could go to the One-Stop Center and request them, or go to our Metro or Van Nuys centers, or you could even email. Now, typically, these are intellectual properties of the engineer or the architect that stamped them. But the governor did issue an order that waived having to get consent from the architect or the engineer, but they did put some guardrails in there. And that is, you would have to sign an affidavit saying, this is for my personal use. And you got to show you're the owner of the property and show an ID. And if you want to send someone in your place to actually get them, that's no problem. But they will need to have an authorized letter signed by you to make sure it's you requesting them. So here is the permitting process. First, when you have a complete plans, you submit them online or in person, as we talked about. Once we make sure they're complete, we take them in. Then we have a team of engineers. We set a special team of engineers. All they do is check the Palisades, and that's to make sure we do them fast and consistent. And if they find anything that's not compliant, not code compliant, then they will issue what's called a correction. And they'll send it to the applicant, and the applicant will make all the necessary revisions and come back to the plan checker to show all the revisions been made. Another thing they do during plan check is do required clearances. Clearances are referrals to other departments. For example, the fire department needs to look at the plan. So those are called clearances. So they'll give a sheet of all the clearances that are needed. And once all the revisions are met and it shows compliance with the building codes and all the clearances are obtained, then the department will approve the plans. Once the plans are approved, the owner or their representative can get the permit anytime afterwards. Now, this process, the plan submittal to plan approval, we're doing it in less than 7 days. This would normally have taken about 20 days, so it's less than half the time. And the permit issuance from plan submittal to permit issuance, that used to take 6 months. We're doing it in about 70 days. So that's a significant improvement in the speed of the process. Next slide, please. So here is, in a nutshell, like a big picture view of what we've done. We sped up the permitting process. Again, we're doing them in less than 7 days for the initial review. Clearances have been streamlined. As a matter of fact, for the Palisades, 70% of the clearances that would be required are gone. And the timeline for the clearances is significantly improved. Clearances are being done in 5 days or less. The fees have been suspended, and like I mentioned, we introduced a self-certification program, AI, and a standard plan program. Next slide, please. So clearances, and that's what I mentioned previously. Before we issue a permit, we want to make sure all the departments that need to look at that plan, they do it ahead of issuing the permit. That way, you don't find out later that you needed something. So these are the clearances we're looking at, but you're not going to see all the clearances for every single project. It's project specific for a lot of them. But what you'll see is Bureau of Engineering, they're looking for drainage, sewer availability. City planning will only get involved when the project is close to the bluff or a biological resource. LAFD will look at every project to make sure they have sufficient hydrant coverage. DWP will only require us to give a clearance to them if what's being built is close to their easement. Sanitation will look at low impact development, but sanitation has made tremendous improvement in LID. There's only a handful of projects in the Palisades that will require LID compared to everything, almost everything from before. Housing department will look at the plans if we have 2 or more units. DOT, Department of Transportation, will look at the plan if you have a new driveway on a major or secondary highway. And street services will be involved for street trees when building beyond 110%. The last clearance is Cal OSHA. This is not a city agency. This is a state agency, and they deal with worker safety. So if there's an excavation over 5 feet, they want to look at it to make sure it's shored up correctly. Next slide, please. Yeah, there. So once the plans are approved, the homeowner can come in and get a permit, or if it's online, they can get the permit online. In that case, they will be taking responsibility for the construction and making sure they hire all the contractors that are licensed and bonded, etc. Alternatively, the contractor for the project can get the permit on behalf of the owner. There is a category of permits I want to talk about briefly. They're called express permits. And those are for minor repairs, alterations. For example, if somebody's air conditioning unit got damaged with a fire and they want to replace it, there's no need for plans in that case. All these express permits are available on the department's website, and you can get them online. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Osama. To continue, I'd like to introduce Dr. Benjamin Corey from Archistar to share an innovative tool. This is the AI pre-plan check, which is being offered through philanthropic support. Over to you, Dr. Corey.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me on this session. Next slide, please. So I'm going to take you through quickly how the AI pre-plan check works, just to demystify it and show you like what it's intending to do and how it works and how it's going to help you get through the process. I do want to thank Mayor Bass on her leadership here, and also the charity organizations that help support this to bring it to the community: LA Rises, Steadfast LA, Autodesk, Amazon, and the California Fire Foundation. You've got a really strong community here that, you know, I can see also by the way that the staff in the department are working with us on this, that everyone is trying to get a really good result here and streamline this process. So if you go to the next slide. You know, you saw a diagram before about the process for getting a permit. What we're seeing when we talk to a lot of cities is this red process here of this resubmission. So if you submit through and it's either a non-complete submission, you're missing information, or there are non-compliant areas, you will get those corrections sent back to say you need to adjust these and fix these up and then resubmit it. This can happen several times throughout the process. All we're trying to do here is help you prepare your application by this first bit at the top by doing this pre-check, which will tell you if you're close or not on getting that compliance before you submit through. If you submit a higher quality application and you've met a lot of the criteria, you're going to get less back and forth on the corrections. And that's all we're trying to do here, reduce the resubmissions. If you go to the next slide. It's super simple to get started. You can do this before you submit in. You go to this website down the bottom here, start.ikey.ai/US/LA City, and you can register for a free account. If you hit the next slide, then all you're going to do is you're going to search for your address. You're going to click to upload a new submission and just upload your PDF architectural drawings that you were going to submit into the city. And then it will go through the process of assessing those and giving you a pre-check. If you go to the next slide. So there are 3 checks that we are doing. As described in the previous versions, there was like for like, there's zoning, and there's a building code check that we're doing. This is some examples of the type of information that you're going to get. And there's a lot of questions on, you know, what qualifies, how much can I move the house? Is it the same? This is going to start to do those checks using AI and show you on your plan. So if you go to the next slide, and we'll go through these pretty quickly. This one is on the minor relocation. So what you're going to see here is on your actual drawings, it's going to show you the blue zone for where that house could be moved to be still considered eligible for a like-for-like. So you do have some flexibility here in where you can move it, which is really good and helps. If you go to the next slide. We're then looking at the 110% on the building height. So this is looking at the previous grade line, the previous building height, and it's giving you that extra 10% and showing you and demonstrating that you're within that 110%. Next slide. And then we're also looking at that building area, so 110% on that. So what was the previous footprint? What's the proposed outline? And are you within the tolerance there to be eligible? Next slide. And then, you know, that's some of the checks that are on the like for like. We do similar checks for zoning, and we can skip through these relatively quickly. But if you go to the next one, you're going to see on the next slide that the types of checks here are going to start to be around the setbacks, the height, the envelope. I think we're still on the zone. Yep, here we go. So you'll see on the left here a checklist of what we're checking. So you're going to see, is it permitted use? Do you have the right setbacks, the right areas? Do you have the variable mass envelopes, architectural features? There are a range of checks that we're going to do here. If you click the next slide, you'll start to see them. They look similar. They're going to check those front setbacks, the side yard setbacks. If you've got prevailing setbacks, it's going to take that into consideration. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the side setbacks come into here. There are some quite complex rules in LA City that we've had to work with around looking at the height of the building and the number of floors. That's all taken into account and broken down in a table. And if you go to the next slide, you'll start to see we also pick up the area inside the house and exclude what's not necessary in those calculations. And then the next slide is the building code. So we're also now doing some essential checks on the building code. So if you click the next slide, you're going to see things here about the minimum glazing and daylighting based on the size of the rooms and the area of the windows. If you go to the next slide, you'll see minimum areas and dimensions of actual rooms, habitable rooms that you need. The next slide, minimum ceiling heights and making sure that you've got the right ceiling heights. The next slide, making sure you've got the right facilities in your house. And the next slide. And finally, you know, I just want to talk about one slide on the benefits. The next slide. If you process this through, you know, you're preparing your plans in a way that it's surfacing up all the information that the team in LA need to see. Sometimes there's missing measurements. This is going to bring all that to the front, so it makes it easier to review. You're going to be able to make sure you get as many ticks as possible so that you can submit in and it's a high quality submission. we're trying to reduce the amount of back and forth in those resubmissions. So the higher quality you submit in, the better it's going to be. So we really ask you to try and get as many ticks as possible. You may not always be able to get full ticks. That's still okay. You can still submit, but hopefully we're just reducing some back and forth and just trying to increase that consistency of those reviews by bringing that in a consistent format every time so that the city has it. I'm ready to go. But that's it from us, and we look forward to processing these permits with the pre-plan, and hopefully we can get you all your permits out a lot faster using this type of technology. And thanks, everyone.
All right, Dr. Corey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Finally, we're going to invite Osama back to cover just a few more topics before we move over to Q&As. So back over to you, Osama.
Thank you, Matt. So I mentioned the self-certification pilot program that we've established under the Mayor's Directive. And this program is meant for architects or licensed architects, rather, that want to do their own work and they don't want building and safety to review it for them for the sake of speeding up the process. So under this program, a licensed architect would come to the department and show their credentials. And once we verify they have all the requirements, we'll certify them. And from that point on, they'll be able to design their own plans, and we would not check them at all. They still have to get the clearances from the other departments, but this will actually speed up the process a whole lot. The projects that qualify under this program would be houses up to 3 stories, including ADUs and rec rooms. What doesn't qualify under the self-certification is when a house in a geologically sensitive area, then we need to be very careful there. The department will still continue to have oversight on behalf of the owner just to make sure things are safe. We're going to continue to have the inspection staff there as they build, and that we will do a random audit just to make sure everybody's following and making sure they're following the codes. Next slide, please. The other program that we've established to speed up permitting is standard plan for single-family homes. And under this programs, interested architects, engineers, or builders, if they choose, they could come to the department with a design, and we'll check that design to make sure it complies with the codes and all the safety elements. And once we have that, we'll approve their plans, and we're only going to approve it once, and they can use it over and over and over again. They could have various designs. That's up to them. Once we approve it, we're gonna host it on our website, and it's meant for the homeowner to go through and say, okay, I like this design. And once they identify a design they like, they could talk to the architect, and the plan is already pre-approved. The only thing we would be looking for is where it's going to sit on the site and some of the zoning requirements and the grading requirements. So for the homeowner, really is going to speed up the process tremendously. It will lower the cost of design because they're using the same plans. It's already pre-checked. They could use it multiple times. And these plans are fully compliant with codes and all the safety and resiliency components of a house. And the interior can be customizable. That should not affect anything. So those that are going to submit in the month of September, they'll be part of the first batch that we're going to put on our website. Next slide. Non-permitted work. So we have received, the department has received complaints from residents in the Palisades that some people are doing work without a permit. And of course, that's a concern to them because they're concerned about safety. So if you think somebody's doing work without a permit, if we could go to the next slide, it's going to show. So this slide shows you the process of how we handle them as a department. So the first step, you see something being done without a permit, you go to our website and there is a portal for reporting working without a permit or report a violation. Once we get that, the first thing we'll do is investigate it. And if we find out there is actually a code violation, that they're doing work without a permit, we will send out an inspection case manager. The case manager will talk with them to let them know that a permit is needed for the work that they're doing. And if they need help through the permitting process, they'll definitely guide them through it. And hopefully that should resolve it. And if they get all the permits and everything is resolved, we're fine, we're good, we close that case. If they don't, despite of our urging to get the required permits, then it becomes a code enforcement violation, and we will issue a notice to that effect. And if they still don't do anything, they don't get permits, that will escalate to an order to comply, which carries financial penalties. And if they still don't do anything and continue doing their work without permits, then we will refer it to the city attorney's office for their processing. So I want to assure you, every single complaint that we receive will be addressed. Thank you. I believe that's the last slide. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, Osama, thank you so much. And thank you to all our presenters for the valuable information. We'll now move into our Q&A session. Here's how this will work. I'll read out the questions that were submitted during registration and tonight's webinar and direct them to the appropriate department. And for any questions that we don't have time for, written responses will be provided afterwards and also posted online. And I will start with the first question. And this question is for DBS. Will expedited processes be available for residential and commercial properties?
Absolutely. Expedited processing will be offered to every single project in the Palisades, regardless of what kind of project it is.
Okay, don't move too far away. The next question is also for you. Will temporary structures be allowed while waiting for rebuild approvals?
Yes, they will be allowed for the duration of the project. So however it takes to rebuild, they'll be allowed to be there.
All right. Osama, this might actually be a bit of a dialogue between the two of us here for a few minutes. How will permitting differ for hillside homes compared to flatland homes?
So the department, they looked at the Palisades and they identified areas that are geologically sensitive. And there is a map that it's available on our website. And the geologically sensitive areas are in orange and yellow. So if the house being rebuilt is in those areas, then they're going to need geological and soils reports to make sure that it's built safely. The other areas, depending on what they do, they may just need a soils report or a compaction report.
Okay. What are the geotechnical requirements for rebuilding in burned slope areas?
So yeah, if the sloped areas, if they're in the geologically sensitive areas, they will need a geology report and a soils report by professionals to show the recommendations, how they're designing and why and so forth, to make sure it's safe.
Okay, thank you, Osama. What new building codes will new homes be required to meet?
That's a great question. Thank you. So typically, when someone submits a drawing, whatever the code in effect at that time, and we're talking about state codes here, that would be the code that the project will carry through completion. So if somebody submitted a plan today, we're under the 2022 California building codes, that's the code they'll carry through with them till the end of the project. Now, there is an exception, which we talked about earlier. If the project was built according to the 2019 code and it's a house, then the governor's order would allow them to go to an older code. Otherwise, they meet the current code. Now, some people get concerned, well, what if the code changes during the process? Well, you are frozen by the time you submit. So if you submit right now, you're 22, so the code may change next year to the 25 code. It doesn't matter. You're frozen under the 22 code until you finish the project. Just please do not let that permit expire. Do not let the plan check expire. There's time limitations on how long the permits are. But again, if you need more time, the department always has the authority and will help extend permits.
Osama, as homeowners are rebuilding, what guidance will be given to homeowners in phase, like that are rebuilding in phases? So garages, ADUs, the main house.
So for the Palisades, it's gonna be up to the owner. If they want to build the ADU first, that's fine. If they want to build the house first, that is also fine. Typically, you build the house, then the ADU, but for the Palisades, some people may want to do their ADU first and live there for a while they're building the main house. That is totally fine. It's up to the owner what sequence they want to do.
All right, just a few more questions here. Will there be a one-stop permitting office dedicated to wildfire survivors?
So the Sawtell office is dedicated to the Palisades. Actually, our staff in there, that's what they do. They help the Palisades. And as volume increases, we will increase staffing. We do want to make sure that the Palisades get top priority service and expeditious service.
And I see here, Osama, that the address is at the top line here, and the hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I do want to also mention a lot of our services, all our services are available online. So I would also highly encourage people to go online and submit your plan if you want to request records and so forth. But the doors are open for the one stop, and we're here to help you.
Okay. This next question you answered. It's how will homeowners be supported if building codes change mid rebuild?
Right. No, the
that's-
code stays with them. That version of the code stays with them. And as soon as they submit, that's the code they follow through the completion of the project. But again, I want to emphasize, please do not let the plan check applications or the permits expire. If you need more time, that's totally understandable. And the department will grant what's called extension of time on a permit. So nowadays, building could take much longer than the code typically allows, but that's not a problem. We'll work with you, but please let us know you need extension of time and we'll happily grant it.
Okay. Osama, just a couple more questions here. Will digital permitting platforms be expanded to speed up processing?
Yeah, and you heard from Dr. Ben, we've been working very closely with Archistar to enhance his program and make sure all the city or state codes are in there. And definitely, we're very excited about it. And as designers, as owners develop their plans, I mean, that's a great tool for them to know up front before they even submit to the city that it meets all the codes and regulations, which will make it go through much faster.
Okay. And just one final question. How will hillside stability and slope risks be factored into planning approvals?
Well, we do check them. We have a grading division within the department, and they specialize in this complex grading projects. So when the plan is submitted to the department for approval, we will have our grading division look at the site and look at the grading reports, geology reports, to make sure they are complying with all the state codes. And so safety, I mean, we do want to build fast, and we have been streamlining the process significantly, but safety will always be our focal point. And the grading division will make sure whatever they do is in compliance with the codes.
All right. Osama, thank you so much. I appreciate the answers to these questions.
Thank you.
We're going to move over to city planning. And the first question we have, will residents be allowed to increase density? For example, add ADUs, duplexes, or townhomes during rebuilding?
Hi, Shannon Ryan again with City Planning. This is a great question. Under Executive Order 1 and Executive Order 8, applicants can apply for new accessory dwelling units to be added to their single-family home lot, but they are not eligible to add units beyond that. The ADU can be built prior to or concurrently with a single-family dwelling, but no additional density can be added. Additionally, as I mentioned in my presentation, Mayor Bass's Executive Order 9 suspends the use of Senate Bill 9 in the burn area. That would have allowed the development up to 4 units on a single family lot, and that's now been suspended.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Will design standards be created for rebuilds to maintain a consistent look and feel in neighborhoods?
There were no mandated design standards for single family houses in the Palisades prior to the fire, and no design standards have been adopted since then. That said, there are existing zoning code regulations that regulate massing through height, residential floor area, and setback requirements. Beyond that, there are also many of the neighborhoods in the Palisades are part of homeowners associations that do regulate certain aspects of design, especially height. So I would be sure to review your HOA requirements too, or any covenants or restrictions on your property that aren't included in the zoning.
Okay. Shannon, will wildfire risk maps, very high fire hazard severity zones, trigger stricter planning rules?
The Palisades has been a designated very high fire severity zone since 1999. Any stricter planning rules that existed prior to the fire will continue to exist. The city considers hazard designations when making zoning decisions. So land within the very high fire severity zone is generally designated for open space or low density residential development with limited commercial, medium residential, and industrial land uses. There are no industrial land uses in the Palisades, but that's all to say that our general plan and the being in the very high fired severity zone is not the place where we're targeting more intense development, and that will continue.
Okay, thank you. And final question for planning. And this question is really important because we want all voices to be heard in the Palisades. Will condos, townhomes, and multifamily projects be treated differently than single family rebuilds?
No, they're all eligible for the streamlining under Executive Order 1. The like for like option is available for every property type if they want to rebuild like for like plus the 10%. But only single family houses in the coastal zone are eligible for that zoning compliance streamlining under Executive Order 8. If a condo or multifamily building or a commercial project is not going to be built utilizing Executive Order 1, it would default to our standard process that existed prior to the fire.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. I appreciate you answering these questions.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to LA Fire Department. And we have one question here for you, and that is, will new departments be required to contribute to fire safety measures, hydrants, access roads, defensible space?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. David Perez here from the Office of the Fire Marshal. Yes, actually, in every case, every kind of project that comes before us, we always do, part of the fire clearance is we look at hydrant accessibility to the project, access to the furthest part of the project. So all of those things continue as normal. So if it were a new development and it would normally require a new hydrant or multiple hydrants to go in, as the development is being sent to us, then we would identify those, and the developer would have to provide the hydrants and ensure proper access to all parts of the development, as well as making sure that there's adequate water supply. So that's always part.
Okay, thank you, David. Appreciate that. The next set of questions is for DWP. And the first question is, what are the specifications, standards, panels, conduit size, location, manhole depth of conduit, encroachment for undergrounding? So an undergrounding question.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Theodore Zeiss, Deputy Incident Commander with Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and Mr. Yamanane will be joining me also on these responses. But, generally for specifications that we're looking for, if you'll go to our website at ledwp.com/Palisades, you'll be able to find specs on the combo panel and some details on private property spacing and other requirements. And then similarly for the encroachment process, we spoke about it earlier in the meeting tonight at ledwp.com/real estate. You'll also find a specification on encroachments to give the audience guidelines.
Okay. Theo, before we move to the next question, do you want to give a shout out to the UROC and location and hours?
Yes, please. We're now located at 3931 Topanga or South Topanga Canyon Boulevard, or at the intersection of Topanga and PCH, and we're open for community intake Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
All right, thank you. Next question is, how will sustainability and climate resilience be built into all new utility infrastructure?
Yes, good afternoon, Matt. This is Yamin Nani, Manager of Program Implementation at the UROC. So as far as sustainability, this has been, a very high priority in mind for DWP. We have launched a pilot program for our Home LA program, which will support sustainability efforts as the residents rebuild their homes. We're offering incentives to support electrification for appliances, energy storage systems, solar, and we know that this is not only going to help the residents but also help us mitigate impacts as we rebuild the grid. And as well as, as far as the sustainability and resiliency, we believe that our undergrounding efforts are going to go a long way towards that and preventing future climate-related incidents. And we hope that's going to go a long way to give assurances to the residents that we're doing everything we can to ensure a sustainable and resilient grid for the Palisades community.
Great, thank you. We know the backbone of undergrounding is happening now in the Palisades. Are there any plans to upgrade old and failing Palisades infrastructure?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, that work will continue as part of these upgrades and modernizations and expansions. So again, the Sunset Corridor is fundamental, as is the expansion and the renewal at DS29. Similarly, and in general, the Department of Water and Power has a longstanding power system reliability program that's been in place for some time and assesses equipment and our system in order to establish replacement priorities and programs throughout the system, including the Palisades.
All right. Theo and Yaman, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We're going to move the questioning over to LA San. First question is, how do I check if my project is located in an environmentally sensitive area, ESA? All right, do we have LA San on?
Yeah, I think I just got unmuted.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Hi.
To do so, you just have to look at Navigate LA, and so we can provide a link to that. But you would toggle the filter, search your address, and then toggle the tool feature to show the ecological sensitive area, which is also known as the environmentally sensitive area. And so once you see that, it'll pop up on your map, and you'll be able to see whether your project is ESA or not. But regardless of whether it's ESA or not, the vast majority of projects in the Palisades are being exempt from LID through Executive Order 8. In fact, less than 5% of the projects in the Palisades will now require LID.
All right. Or about just one more question. And this is, the question is, my project is not located in ESA. Do I still need to submit to LID?
Yes. So if LADBS in their plan check adds the LID clearance, you will still need to submit to LID, and then LID will review your project and likely clear it as not required, either as a result of the current ordinance or as a result of the Emergency Order 8. So as I mentioned, less than 5% projects will require LID at this point. So it'll be a pretty cursory review. Currently, our reviews are done within 1 business day once they're submitted to the department. And generally, I would say 80% of them are cleared that first instance, and then maybe the other 15% are cleared following requests for additional information or additional plans.
Okay, thank you very much. The next set of questions we have are for Streets LA. And so the first question is, who do we contact should we see illegal dumpsters and building materials in the streets?
Sorry, I was muted.
No
Good,
worries.
good
Hi.
evening.
Good evening.
If you see any illegal dumping or activities or building materials on the public right of way, please report it on MyLA 311 and note specifically that it is in the Palisades. That way we prioritize it in our response and we can issue a notice of violation to the offender.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. This question may be for you as well. Are building materials permits required?
Yes, they are required. And the reason that they are required is so we can coordinate the building materials that are in the public right of way in terms of the duration that they are allowed to stay out there, the types of materials, and where they are placed. That way, folks are not on top of each other and we are able to coordinate all the construction activities in the public right of way.
Okay. Are overload permits required?
Yes, overload permits are also required, and they basically make sure that again that there's coordination that is happening in the public right of way, and we don't have large vehicles that are conflicting with utilities or any other elements in the street.
Okay, and final question here, and this is regarding street tree removals. Are clearances required for street tree removals?
The only clearance that is required is for street tree removals for projects that are beyond 110%. If you have a like for like, those are exempt. And if you have private property protected trees, those are exempt from clearances as well.
Okay, Anna, thank you so much. I appreciate you answering those questions.
You're welcome.
All right, we have our final 3 questions here for LA Housing, LAHD. When is my proposed project exempt from needing a replacement unit determination, an RUD?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for the question. The only projects that are exempt from a RUD at this time, replacement unit determination, at this time are projects that propose a single-family dwelling to replace the prior existing single-family dwelling. Anything beyond a single-family to single-family would require a replacement unit determination from us.
Okay, a follow-up question, Nicholas. When can I apply for a RUD?
So you can apply for a RUD as early as you want. This can be before you submit a building permit application. I would encourage you that if you are constructing anything more than a single family dwelling on the site, to reach out to us as soon as possible. You can reach us by email. It's lahd-landuse@lacity.org.
And Nicholas, for those who might not be familiar with what a RUD is, do you mind giving just a quick explanation?
Sure. So a replacement determination is issued by LAHD, the land use section, which I am in, to make sure that the proposed development is in compliance with the Housing Crisis Act of 2019, state law.
Okay, thank you. And then final question here. What if the tenant is low or below low income?
Yeah, so Governor's Order N-20-25 suspended the requirement to deed restrict units at low or below low income. However, if the tenant that existed immediately prior to the fire was low or below low income, the owner should provide them with the right of first refusal to a comparable affordable unit on the proposed development. It won't be deed restricted with the covenant, but they will be obligated to provide that to the returning tenants.
Okay, Nicholas, thank you so much. So that is all of the questions that we had that came in prior to the meeting. Are there any questions that came in on the chat? I think we may have time for one or two. I'll need help from other folks to help me read those questions out. Let's see. Maybe let's go back to Osama for a quick second. There's questions about how long it's taking the permit process. Can you comment on the timing?
Yeah, so the initial review, which is when it's submitted to the time they get their comments from building and safety and a list of clearances, that's taken less than 7 days. The overall process from submittal to permits averaging about 70 days.
Okay, thank you. We will, I know there's several questions here in the Q&As. We will take those offline and answer those and get those back out to you. And I know we're running short on time. But before we close, I did want to make a quick announcement. In partnership with ArcaCraft, the city will be releasing a rebuild guide for single family homes. We want to thank ArcaCraft for their partnership. This guide will walk you through your rebuild options and other resources to help you rebuild your home. We will email the link to all attendees and post it on the city website when it becomes available. You'll also receive a list of resources and contact emails, which you'll see on the final slide that you saw on the final slide. But on behalf of all of our partners, I just want to thank you for your time and engagement. Together, we're building stronger, safer, and faster. So thank you to all of the presenters this evening. Most importantly, thank you to Mayor Bass, Councilwoman Park, and to all the panel presenters. But thank you to each of you who attended today to learn more about the permitting and planning process. And with that, thank you very much and have a great night.